185 miles south. A hardcore punk rock podcast.
All right, this is recorded on April 19th, 2019. Today we have Daniel Sant, singer of Over My Dead Body, singer of Palpatine, singer of Northern Towns, doing the DJ thing now and living large, and San Diego scene veteran, now living up in Oakland, one of my best friends in hardcore music. And that's that. What's up, Daniel?
What's going on? Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, man. So I'm trying to think of when we met, and I'm not really sure. I used to come down and hang out with Don and so forth, and I think that you would have been in that circle. It was when you were doing Palpatine.
Yeah, that's when we would have met. It's when you were doing Voice of Defiance, and we were going up there occasionally for shows. Not necessarily to the Laser Star, unless Built to Last were playing. But around that time I was also in the Navy at that time too, so sometimes like Don would be at a show but I wouldn't be there, but other times Don would be at a show and I would be there, depending on if my ship was in town or not.
I had no idea that your Navy run was that late. So you were in the Navy up until...
95 to 98.
Oh, holy cow.
Yeah.
So yeah, right into the Palpatine time.
Yeah, like I had to request leave to play the floor punch show at the Empire Club because it was my duty schedule.
Yeah.
was that day. So to play the floor punch show, I had to actually request like vacation to like say, oh yeah, my aunt is coming into town, so I need these 2 days off. But it was actually just to play the floor punch.
I remember that whole weekend was so huge for us. Like, we loved that band, and yeah, my band at the time was Stand Your Ground, and we got to play. Man, I think, well, first off, I went up for that NorCal show that like is pretty infamous for those Nazis getting beat. One of them got beat into a coma at Floor Punch of the Coquetry. I was at that one, but we didn't play. But then we played the Isla Vista show. We played the PCH, we played Laser Star, and then Empire Club, and I think that might have been the 4 Floor Punch Southern California shows. And that's awesome. Yeah, Palpatine. Go ahead.
Did you go to the Coquetry show?
I did. Yeah, I went up, and it was wild. I think, I haven't gone to that many NorCal shows at that time, but we did go up and we saw Powerhouse a few times, and that was Hoods and Floor Punch. And I think they had, like, a fair amount of problems with the Nazis. I always heard, like, stories about, like, Powerhouse basically beating the shit out of them everywhere and, like, kind of chasing them out of the scene.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting how organized they were. Like, they were prepared for it. Like, I can't remember. I think it was 3 Nazis showed up. And, like, right away, one of, like, the head scene dudes, like, basically goes around to everyone and is like, okay, we're going to let these guys be. But as soon as they punch someone, and inevitably they're gonna, everybody jumps in, and inevitably...
It's probably that guy Sammy, right, at the time.
Yeah, he was one of them.
But I heard that the drummer from Floor Punch was handing out like hardware from his drum kit.
Yeah, I mean the guy that got put in a coma, it was from half of a cymbal stand, right between the eyes, having like right in front of me. It's pretty burly, and then. What was the most impressive about it was, like, on the way out, they had this other dude, like, at the door, like a scene veteran. And when you're walking out, like, if you're a normal hardcore kid, they were like, or did you come here with someone? And at the time, I think I was there with my friend Beeve from Santa Cruz. Yeah. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm here with my friend Beeve. And they're like, okay, you're cool. But, like, if there was someone that was like, oh, I'm here by myself, they had, like... It might have been like Doug, like some big motherfucker like Doug walk you to your car to make sure like you're okay. I was like, man, this scene is like on point.
Yeah, like it was all my friends up there now, and then we were friends with them at the time anyway, or some of them, like RJ and stuff. That they were all the people involved in that. So it's funny to see those pictures because our friend from Orange County, Chase, was actually taking photos at that show, as well as, there's those other photos that were where basically that one Nazi doesn't know it's coming, and the guy's right behind him, like, about to smash him, and it's just like, but in San Diego, we've had that ourselves.
Well, I know you had a band that like really rode that wave in, right? I mean, like that was your, like, I don't know if it was the motivation of Over My Body, but it was like the initial theme song.
Yeah. I mean, that song was from the In Control Swindle Built to Last show. Like that song, we're talking about a song called Neanderthal Convention.
Which is a great name.
Which was, an Over My Dead Body song that was specifically because in San Diego we had battled for years, off and on, and if you even go back to, like, this is way before my time, but go back to the Henry Rollins Get in the Vent, like, San Diego was known as, like, Nazi shit all the time, like, because there were sailors here, there's a beach here.
There's Spring Valley here, there's Clan T,
and
Lakeside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's what's so funny is that on both ends, east and west of beach towns like this, like the people who live right at the beach, it's almost like a white power thing from prison.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And then East County, it's a white power thing from being a fucking inbred hillbilly. So we were talking about that with, like, it happens all the way up the coast, all the way to where you're from as well. Like,
we had our problems for sure. I mean,
surf Nazi is a term strictly probably because of Oxnard. Do you know what I mean? Like, in Lost Boys, the bad guys are the vampires, but the other bad guys that the vampires are fighting are the surf Nazis. And it's totally based on, like, some people from, like, those beach communities up a little bit further north than from here,
Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious. How do you start Palpatine?
Well, I used to sing for Swindle, like, a long, long time ago, coming out of... So, I moved to America and I'm originally from England. I moved to America and did my senior year at Mission Bay High. During that time, we formed a punk band called Swindle, and we would play Somicide Stage, Soul Kitchen, Cafe Mesopotamia, all of the, like, kind of spots, and we were starting to get, it was pretty fast-paced punk with, like, a pop-punk influence as well, so it was like, I don't know, there wasn't too many bands that sounded like that, I feel. That it's, like, kind of gruff, but fast, but also poppy and full of melody.
Yeah, it was punky, and at a time that, more stuff was like sounding like NoFX, right?
Yeah,
so everything you guys, you guys
Yeah.
weren't like the super fast, like do that, do that, do that, do that, do that, do that.
Yeah, it was more like influenced by, like, bands like Blitz and Menace and things like that. But while also going to shows of bands that sounded like you've just described, Sure. So it was kind of organically grew from all of that, and the only bands that I guess were similar would be like Total Chaos or something like that, but they were very cheesy, whereas
I don't know, dude. I love that Punk No Die song from their second LP is hard as fuck.
I mean, they had a guitar player named Ronald McMurder.
That's legit.
Yeah. But so halfway through my senior year, I come home from school one day, and my dad and my stepmom are in the living room. Like, we need to talk to you. And I'm like, oh, God, like, what the fuck? And they were like, well, you're joining the military to pay for college. Because my dad told me to move to America, and I would go for a year of high school, and then he'd put me through college. Like, it was kind of like hey, come try this. Well, I had a wicked stepmother that, kind of, whatever. Like, you can't look back. But, so halfway through that they come halfway through that year, they was like, well, you're joining the military to pay for college. And I'm like, I only knew like 20 people at this time. And also when you're 18, you're like, well, what the fuck am I going to do? And so you just kind of go along with it.
Did it. But how fortunate are you that you went in and got stationed here?
Well, that's why I initially processed to go through for the Air Force. And then my thinking at the time was, the Navy College Fund gives you a lot more money than just the GI Bill. And the biggest port in the world is San Diego, so there's a great chance I can stay and still be in my band. Well, I went away to boot camp, and then I came back for a week or so, and then reported to my ship at 32nd Street in National City, San Diego. And a week later, we were on a 9-month round-the-world tour called Westpac, and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
And then I call home from a really heartbreaking phone call at the time. I call home from
the Marianas Trench.
It's from Jabal Ali and the United Arab Emirates, and this is before email, this is before texting, this is before any of that stuff, obviously, because I'm old. But so like talking to friends back home is like gold dust while you're away, And so I call home and I speak to Nick, the drummer in Swindle, and he's like, we have this very cryy phone call where I essentially get like kicked out of the band just because they need to keep going.
Sure.
Like, things
9 months, dude.
For them, and I'm away. I've already been away for like 4 months of boot camp, and then, and so, I've never felt more alone in the world at that time.
Oh, I bet. You lost your band.
I lost my band. I wasn't mad at my friends. I understood it, but I felt let down.
Well, they're like,
I didn't feel stabbed in the back, but I felt let down.
Yeah, I mean, they're moving on without you, right? But 9 months as an 18-year-old is forever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
9 months is I'm 39 now. I mean, 9 months goes by in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, definitely.
But as an 18-year-old, it's like, shit, you lose a weekend. It's like,
Yeah, definitely. And they were getting offered all these shows, and Mark was singing now. And arguably, definitely, Mark was a way better singer for that band than I was.
Sure.
Way better. Like, he had the, gruff vocals. It fit perfect. Like, he sort of sang like Crimpshine in a fast punk oi band.
Yeah, I can't imagine a different singer.
Yeah.
So, he's a Swindle singer.
Yeah, definitely. So when I came back, we would always hang out and just jam around in music. And at the time, I had transitioned from liking punk and hardcore to pretty much being a straight up hardcore disciple. Mm-hmm. While I was away. All I listened to was it was the Victory heyday. I was listening to Earth Crisis, Strife, Snapcase, Refused,
mm-hmm.
etc. All those records, as well as all the Rev back catalog, that those bands seemed like 500 years ago, but really, if you thought about it, you just missed them by a year.
I know, that blows my mind.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I missed them by more than a year, but in the span of me being around hardcore, it's like, oh my God.
is when I started liking that stuff. And I remember Don, our
mm-hmm.
friend, a mutual friend Don, is who turned me on to Judge, and I was like, oh, this is too metal. At the time, I was like, this is fucking metal as fuck. I can't listen to this.
Yeah.
And then, it starts seeping into you, and then you, of course, you're in the Navy, you're straight edge. This is me, not you.
No, never went in the Navy.
Yeah.
And never was straight edge.
Yeah. But I'm straight edge in the Navy. People are fucking wasted the entire time that we get time off the ship, right?
Yeah.
And it got to the point where we were in Jordan having a couple days off. We actually were at the place where in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, they go... So it's Petra, Jordan, where Carl Pilkington goes there as well in An Idiot Abroad.
Right.
Basically, we were there, and I ordered a Coke, and I went to the toilet, and came back, and one of my friends who was punk, like, so
Punk
when
adjacent.
you're on a ship, when you're on a ship, no matter if you like one guy liked Unsane and Helmet and things like that, and another guy that was friends with us was all about like.
Yeah, he liked it when Metallica covered the Misfits, so he was your bro.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? We had another guy who was just strictly like face-to-face and all of that stuff, as well as, you know, I liked what I liked, but you band together because at least there's some free-thinkingness amongst, you know, like, I mean, obviously, well, not obviously, but I love hip-hop as well, so... You know, I had a lot in common with a lot of the East Coast people because, you know, that's the kind of, you know, I was loving Wu-Tang and Mobb Deep and Biggie and whatnot, as well as some West Coast stuff. But it was crazy that during that time, it was actually the time of people picking sides.
Yeah.
In that, and like, I'm not listening to Tupac. Fuck that. You know, it's weird. But anyway, I'm digressing away from it. But so
some dude spiked your drink.
Yeah, and it's the only time that it's not been in a group setting, and that's probably the last time I actually just full on like fought someone.
Yeah,
because you know it meant that much to me. And then the next time we were in Australia, everybody was so wasted coming back on the ship and puking all over the place. I went down to this is how ridiculous. But, you know, I was 19, straight edge, and fucking straight fucking edge at the time.
Yeah, Mike Judge is your spirit animal.
Yeah, like, I'm listening to Earth Crisis every day, like, while doing my job around the... Because you can take your boombox to where you're doing your work, and I'm listening to No Allegiance and stuff, and I went down to, like, what's called muster, where you go down and, like, you know, everyone stands in formation and they make sure everyone's on the ship and whatnot. I went down X'd up. Like, you fucking drunk bastards, I'm gonna kill you. Like, I don't know. When you're alone and you're thinking like that, you're like, wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, coming out of the Navy and having, like, time off away from the ship, I would... you know, hang with my friends in Swindle, and because I was so into hardcore, I would be playing, like, we would go on road trips and stuff, I would be playing these records and, well, tapes mainly for them. And so they were getting into it too. So Mark and Nick from Swindle, and then we had a friend, Ryan, that the guitar player of Swindle, Gavin's roommate at UCSD, and he was a hardcore kid from Orange County, or hardcore adjacent, you know, and so we started like Palpatine, like playing like fast punk with screamy vocals that kind of other songs went really heavy, and it just was this strange thing. But then we were also listening to bands like Fingerprint and Anasarca and like some of those really like the true meaning of the word screamo, not like alternative press screamo. So we were listening to those kind of bands, and that kind of had an influence on the music as well. So Palpatine was like this kind of amalgam of all of those different styles.
It's a very San Diego band.
Very, yeah. We were listening to 31G music, you know, like, and you know, running it through our filter in a weird way. And then our friend Pete started playing bass for us, and he was like a Gehenna disciple, so it was like...
Who isn't, though?
Yeah, but it was like, so Gehenna influence with like fast as fuck, like, I don't know, like Charles Bronson music, everything, like just kind of in one band that, and it somehow worked. Like some people really liked us, but we weren't the kind of band that was going to catch on with everyone, I don't think.
No, of course. Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting to be doing that band when you're basically listening to very straightforward, generic hardcore, right? Yeah. I mean, like, that's something I talked about with Guzman and AH as well, is San Diego always has, like, this really open palette.
Yeah.
Right? It's never it's never like just this type of scene or this type of scene or this type of scene. It's like people are always really open-minded to multiple styles.
Well, I think that's the beauty of writing songs in that band too, is that everybody came from a different listening post that brought different things into writing the songs, and it kind of organically grew from that. Like, and especially if you listen to like this, I would say the LP, but it was only a CD.
Yeah.
When you listen to that, it's like the songs like go left turn to right turn to like, you know, very different sounding like in a track listing, you know. Mm-hmm. But it all seemed to work, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and what did you do in the couple years between the Palpatine and Override Body? You're out of the Navy, right?
Yeah.
So the Palpatine 7-inch is 99, and well, I guess you did the Override Body demo, huh?
I think.
I guess No Runners is 2001.
I think both bands were probably concurrent for maybe a month or two.
You think they lapped over each other?
As soon as Override Body started, it was kind of like that was the band.
Well, talk about how it started, and also a little bit. This we'll go into this because I wanted your opinion on PC Death Squad, but it seemed so like natural. Like I loved Built to Last, and we came down all the time to see them, and like kind of just them. Like there's even a Retaliate lyric like drove 6 hours just to see one band, you know, and that was like we drove down and saw Built to Last and left, and it was like, man, that was a long way to drive for one band, but. Like
so you probably snubbed Palps like repeatedly, you know, like because we played with Built to Last almost at all those shows.
Palps probably got snubbed,
you know.
True. We had limited time, and we loved Built to Last,
and without a doubt, because at that time, from loving Floor Punch and loving In My Eyes and stuff like that. I mean, just look at the Fuck California 7-inch of Carry On, kind of throwing their toys out of the pram a little bit, was because our Southern California was dominated by metallic hardcore, that people who liked straightforward hardcore were almost looked at as dinosaurs or different.
I would say that was like I would say that's a fair assessment in like the 99. Yeah. But by the time the Carry On 7-inch said that, I think that was not. There was already a scene by then, and like there was like lots of good bands.
Without a doubt,
that was a silly thing.
That's why I said the toys, throwing the toys out the pram, is because we already had a burgeoning PCH, Che Cafe, Oxnard. Like we had our Underground Railroad of great shows at that time, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to go with like what you were saying about kind of that.
So what I was going to say is there was like Built to Last, like they seemed to me like, you know, the bigger band down here, and then just naturally when they broke up, it just transferred to Override Body. You know, like it was like, well, here we are, and like we're the headlining band now, and it was like it was so natural, and like you guys were good, like you were ready to take the mantle, you know, and so like there was like the scene, like that sect of the hardcore scene here was like not hurt by Built to Last, like indie, like because you guys were already there, like carrying it. So like the kids still had something to go to, you know.
Yeah. And if anything, I think we pulled a lot more people from other areas just because of, well, first and foremost, Rob has a new band.
True.
You know?
True. And you had a couple of guys from Built to Last.
Yeah. Well, I think we, without trying to, ended Built to Last to an extent. I mean, Dave, I think, was losing interest in it to at the time, as well as Aaron and Scott were now like, oh, this is our new band. This is giving us like, you know, those kind of feelings when you're in a new relationship.
Yeah, well, I mean, Built to Last had a good run.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they were at the end of their run and all of their material is respectable.
Oh, without doubt.
You know,
I like the demo the best to an extent. You know, not in reality if I listen to the songs side by side, but the demo meant so much to me at the time.
Yeah.
That like it came out, like it was like, fuck, this is from San Diego, and this is
Yeah.
this is
I like
this is like sick of it all, you know?
Yeah, I like the 6-song EP is my favorite.
Yeah, me too.
But my favorite song is like the
Is
Turn Away on the comp track.
Yeah, I thought it would be. It's
So
a lot of people's favorite, I think.
yeah, it was great. So over my body, you overlapped a little bit.
Yeah.
Wow, it's weird. Like doing this is like really testing my memory.
Yeah.
And it's like really letting me down like a lot, like forgetting things like that. You know?
Well, Over My Dead Body were practicing at the time of that Built to Last Swindle in Control show with the Nazis.
Okay. So
like we were just practicing.
You're just starting to practice.
Like maybe our second practice. Something around that time.
You should probably tell the story because it is kind of like the catalyst of the band, right?
Well, I'll tell the story of even before we get to that, because we were all going to Empire Club shows. And so Palpatine was playing with Built to Last. And
which one was the Empire Club again?
On 30th, it's now the Belching Beaver or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
On 30th and Elkhorn Boulevard.
Okay.
So
that's right.
It's where Rob used to have his record store in the front.
Yeah, this is where the Floor Punch show was.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, in the build-up to that, these Nazis and fence workers were starting to come around to hardcore shows for about a year, and we were not having it. But we were also San Diego has been a place where we don't want fights at shows. We understand that, like, every time, that was what Orange County was. It was, like, full of crews. It was, like, rich kid crews, like, all acting like gangsters. But they would fight, and they would ruin shows all the time. And they came down to San Diego and did it at an Earth Crisis show, and that's when Special Agent Mike Cheese was activated. But just saying, San Diego wanted no part of that. We were a very diverse scene.
Yeah.
We were full of people that were welcoming of punk, hardcore, like metallic hardcore, like the 31G stuff. Even though, sometimes the 31G stuff looked down on us, people who liked regular, straightforward hardcore too. Sometimes. But a lot of that stuff is just lost in miscommunication,
Sure.
It's like, if we actually all just hung out, we were all down for our shit, because we'd go up to the HB library to see, Guyver One playing with the Locust and things like that as well, at the same time that we'd turn around and then go see, Time Flies are playing Chain Reaction.
Sure.
Or Public Storage at the time.
Sure.
So that's what San Diego was all about, and then these Nazis started kind of coming around, or actually at the time, skinheads, like hardcore skinheads. But we had, like the Engler brothers and stuff like that were hardcore skinheads, and Noah from the front line that went on to front Rat City Riot. So we knew, there was a difference between those dudes, and also Bert knew all of these sketchy dudes that were starting to come around, because he used to be a sharp, and that's who he used to fight all the time. All these hammerskins and whatnot coming around. And so it was this long, progressive, 9 months of tension at shows. And then one night it just kind of popped off at the Empire Club. It kind of sprawled out into the street, and so we're fighting. Well, actually, I wasn't fighting in the street, because I was interviewing Kevin Murphy from Farside / Adult Crash for my zine that I was attempting to do at the time.
Uh-huh.
And so, Ben and Don and Aaron from from Built to Last / Over My Dead Body were fighting the Nazis and stuff in the street. And then Aaron and I got talking at that same show, where I was like, I want to do a straight edge band. That plays not straightforward hardcore, but that plays the hardcore of the classic straight edge bands.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
So that was my like brainchild. Not that it's a big stretch or anything, but at the time, there wasn't Built to Last were that band without being straight edge.
Sure.
And I think that was great at the time Built to Last were out, that they weren't straight edge, because I think they were very welcoming, like a welcoming area for people from all different counties in San Diego, where, whatever they did in their time away from hardcore shows, like, is whatever. Some kids were edge, some kids were getting wasted, it was fine. But my thing with just of what straight edge has done for me, like, me, I have a very addictive personality. If I didn't spend all my money on shoes and clothes and whatnot and records, imagine if I was into drinking or drugs,
Well, yeah, that's what Rick DeLife went. He on the New York Hardcore documentary, right? He's like, I used to have money and I spent it on drugs, and then I turned it into tattoos. I'd get a little bit of money, I'd go get a tattoo. I don't have money for drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that I necessarily would be that, but I could see with the way I get passionate about things, perhaps if I tasted something. And also my dad is like a pretty passive alcoholic, and I just know it's in our bloodstream to an extent. So I never did anything like that on a weird subconscious level, probably because there was something there just telling me, like, don't drink. Like, you can have fun without it, and you are, probably going to be susceptible to it if you do. So that's why I said to Aaron, like, dude, I want to do a straight edge band. Are you down? And he was like, yeah, but I want to play guitar. And I'm like, all right, well, I was hitting you up because you're the only straight edge drummer I know. But I was like, okay, no problem. We'll figure it out. And then I hit Rob up, and the conversation between Rob and I was, I want to do this band. And Scott was instantly down with Aaron at the time. Like, Scott was around for that conversation, was like, I want to play too. And I'm like, all right, well, we got 2 guitar players now.
Yeah, check them off.
Yeah. And so then I'm like, I'm going to hit up Rob, because Rob and I were friends. We would hang out all the time around that time, but not as tight as we would become all the time. But we hung out, like Don, Rob, myself, all the time.
Sure.
And so I hit Rob up, and I'm like, I want to do a hardcore band that's straight edge. And through our conversation, we're like, the 2 tenets that we have to build this band on are being punk and straight edge. Like punk hardcore, like hardcore punk, like Minor Threat, like things where there wasn't a line in the sound, because we were looking at bands in like Orange County and things like that would, if a punk band was on the bill, they would laugh at them.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Not generalize. That's a very generalizing statement. There's 100,000 people. Well, not 100,000. There's a lot of people in the OC scene that would never have been like that. But some people were. They would just judge them like, fucking punk is like in that area. Especially, I'm sure punk was the way you initially got into something. You were into the Misfits, whatever, blah blah blah, and then you graduated into the form of hardcore that was up there, So
yeah, you wanted to be a little more unifying of like the punk and the hardcore.
Yeah, and so the discussion with Rob was, this is San Diego. We're a San Diego straight edge band. There hasn't been one since Unbroken, probably. There may have been like little things here and there, but there was nothing that was like, this is what we are since Unbroken, to my knowledge. And if I'm forgetting anything, sorry, but that's what it was built on. And then Rob's like, Tommy from Virginia, who I know from Taylor from Four Walls Falling, he like used to play with Four Walls Falling, has just moved to the area. I'll see if he wants to drum. And then we had one practice without a drummer, like before Tommy got there, where we kind of figured some stuff out. Then the next practice, Rob was there, and there was still no drum. Then the next practice after that, Tommy was there, and it was like, holy shit, this is falling into place quickly. And I think at the practice with Tommy, because Aaron had already written like a few riffs and stuff, and at that practice I think we got like three to four songs down where I took it on a tape and went home and wrote lyrics. Well, one of those songs, in the meantime, this show at the Che Cafe happened in late 1999, which I think it was in December 1999, which was Built to Last, Swindle, somebody else, and In Control. In Control opened. And that tension of the Nazis had been building up for ages. And we're on the forecourt of the Che Cafe, and I'm stood next to Don. And some of those familiar faces are showing up, and we're like, oh god. And then these two fucking monsters show up with them, and I turn to Don and I'm like, I think we're gonna have to fight tonight. Like, they have brought their...
Yeah, that one guy was like
weapons.
The final boss.
Yeah, exactly.
They brought the final boss to the show.
They brought White Warrior, as he was later became to be known, and I'll tell you why. But they brought him, and as he came down the stairs, I was like, yeah, we're fighting tonight. And Don was doing merch for Built to Last, I think, at that show, and like he already went in like almost like preparing like, here's where I'm gonna shove everything like when things kick off.
Sure.
And, like, so you guys play, still tension in the air. You guys fucking, I bought a demo like that, like halfway through your set. Like I was like,
yeah, that was early.
Yeah,
it was late '99.
Yeah,
I mean, we only had the demo.
Just the demo, and it was so fucking sick. Faux pas, podcast faux pas.
Faux pas, go on.
Don already had the demo, so I was familiar with it, but I wanted to see you live, and I think that was the first time I saw this band. You know?
Oh, it had to have been.
Yeah.
If it was that, it was probably our third show.
Yeah, but it was so sick, and then I don't know who the second band was on that show. Do you?
No, I should have Googled a flyer.
Yeah,
because I knew I was going to ask about the show.
Yeah, but then then Swindle started to play, and is Swindle headlining or is Built to Last headlining?
Built to Last would headline. Was it?
I would have thought.
Was it not like the final Built to Last show? No, it wouldn't have been.
It wasn't named as that, as such. I think Swindle were headlining. I don't think they got to play.
Okay.
Or at least maybe they did after everything. But you know those weird, like, when something goes so fucking crazy, you don't really remember anything except for the craziness.
Yeah,
and you still forget lots of things during it. You know.
I remember some things from it, but go on, you carry on.
So Built to Last start, and that like the final boss is in the pit with that other like really big bowling ball shaped Nazi.
Yeah.
But these aren't like fence walkers. Like a lot of their friends were fence walkers. These were fucking out and proud, tattooed Nazi like skins, like out of jail, definitely.
Yeah.
And I remember Jeff Cannon, who is, was like a Built to Last like crew, like one of the Built to Last crew dudes. Kind of like getting like worked by one of them in the pit a little bit, like he was roughing him up, and Jeff like faced up to him, and I remember one of them just headbutted him, and I was like, oh fuck. So Built to Last instantly had, they were waiting for this. Everyone was. We all spread word around that show. Like, if this happens tonight, it happens tonight, because this has been building up for too long. These kind of conversations happen not in those words, like almost mirroring the show in the Floor Punch show in Northern California. It was kind of like, this is happening, and the Che is the final place they can't come and do this at.
Yeah, I knew it was going to happen because I had a visor ready. I put on a little Dodger visor so people wouldn't think I was a Nazi.
Smart move.
I think I had just shaved my head. And I was like, well, I don't want to go down like that.
Especially when...
But Visor's like...
80% of the people in there wouldn't know...
They wouldn't know me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they wouldn't know me.
Especially, So...
Especially if, like... Oh, I just started going bald, so I shaved my head. So, like, even if they would have known me from, like, standing around or something, I had hair then.
Yeah.
So, they wouldn't have recognized me. So, yeah, but I had a visor to put on, and that was probably the last year that it was okay to wear a visor in hardcore.
Yeah, well, also, putting on a Dodgers visor would have got you punched by Don, probably.
That's true. And Don was buff back then, too. Like, I don't know if I could have taken Don.
So, like, Jeff faces up to him, they headbutt him, and Built to Last instantly have all their instruments down and are on the side of the light on the front of the stage, like, and it's this, like, jawing going back and forth where it's just, like, it is the most, like, fever pitch. It must be what it... This is going to sound so nerdy, but it must have been what it's like in those, like, medieval times where you just stood across the precipice from another army and you're about to just launch into each other. It was that weird, like, feeling.
Yeah.
I remember.
Or like watching wrestling in Memphis in '82.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I mean, imagine being a bystander there, knowing like you can just be a wallflower and you're seeing this go down. I mean, what kind of entertainment? You got the best $6 of your life that night.
Yeah, for sure. And if you got out of line, they would smack you too. But at this, it was like, I think Donna told like a couple of the girls that were standing by us, like, get under the table, like where we were stood. And it was just this thing. And I, I used to hang out with Dave Kennedy like every day back then. Like we lived like 3 blocks from each other. We hung out every single day. And having talked to him after it, it was just funny. It was like, they would join like crazy, like some of the volunteers from the Che were trying to get in to be like, whoa, 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 But Dave said in his mind, and Dave was our big, like in The Outsiders, how that guy Derry, like Patrick Swayze, and the other guy they know each other from palling around at football or whatever, like is the line in the film or the book. And it was... Dave was our version of him, except for this guy made Dave look like me standing next to Dave. Do you know what I mean? This guy was I'm not joking, like 6'8".
For sure.
6'8", no, 6'9".
Yeah, you're not exaggerating.
Completely
He was like the scariest dude you could possibly see.
Yeah. And so, 6'9", probably 260, 270 pounds of just... He looked like
steroid
Scott
muscle.
Steiner.
Yeah.
Like, straight up, but a Nazi.
Sure.
Like,
he looked like the warlord.
Yeah, he looked like the warlord. Like, straight up. Shaved head. And at this point, he hadn't taken his shirt off. Actually, I think at this point, he takes his shirt off. And he has a massive, huge swastika in the center of his chest. And in Old English, rocker across his stomach, it says White Warrior. And at this point, Dave said in his mind, and this is after him and I have talked about it, Dave said, well, we're going to end up fighting him anyway. Let me get in this first punch.
Yeah.
And Dave just pulls back the hardest fucking punch. And this guy fucking shrugs it off.
I know. From the longest arm in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
hit him from the stage.
Smashed him in the face, and everything explodes at that point. But the one thing I noticed in the quiet of the storm is I noticed this guy just shrugged that punch off. And internally I was like, fuck. And so at the time, then Aaron grabs him into a headlock and runs him into the wall of the Che. Like that guy. And at that point, I was like, I think sort of helping, like grabbing the guy from behind. But so it goes nuts for a second and then it dissipates again. Like the fighting stops for a sec. Like other people have got, any of the fence walkers, even our friend Baruch, who was a traditional skin who not everybody knew at the time, people were trying to smash him because, you know, and Dom's like, no.
Yeah.
He's with us. Like, because, you know, all the punks.
Because he didn't have a visor, dude.
Yeah, and just, I think that second band must have been from somewhere else as well. Because we had all the Oxnard kids that were jumping in and helping. And then we had...
I feel like it could have been Collision.
Yeah. That kind of makes sense that it could have been, but I don't know if it would have been a more punk band. So it was like hardcore punk, hardcore.
That's true.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Because I remember that, you know, some people were having to be told, hit him, not him, you know? Like, that's a Nazi, that's not, you know? And so all the fence walkers that we knew they weren't Nazis, but they were living that, like, lifestyle where they were hanging out with these dudes and co-signing it. So you're fucking dead at that point anyway. And you're the ones who've been bringing these people around to ruin our shows. So tonight's the night it's happening.
Yeah,
you know?
You brought White Warrior to the Shay.
Yeah,
you gotta get it.
To get us, essentially. Because it was building up, you know, over and over. And so they did it to get us. And so everyone was getting stomped. But then for a second, like, after Aaron, you know, ran him into the wall and stuff, it kind of just... It stopped for a second. And I was stood there, and I was the nearest person to him. And I'm like... Holy shit, and I just sucked back into the crowd, like, very quickly.
Like Homer into the bush.
Yes, exactly. I was like, fuck. But then Tara from Durga, who was one of the Che volunteers, comes in, and she's like, out! Get out! You know. And he just grabbed her and mushed her, like, flying. If you remember that?
I don't remember that.
Oh, he, like, just shoved her, and she went flying. But at this point, Freddie... from Built to Last, who was the very first person that any of us knew who did jiu-jitsu and all of that stuff. He had climbed on top of his half stack because he was playing guitar for Built to Last at the time, and Scott was playing bass. Mm-hmm. And he had climbed on top of his half stack and jumped on this guy's back, like put, you know, the underhooks or whatever with his feet in, and started choking the person out, the piece of shit out, while Dave was just hammering him over and over and over again in the head, like, repeatedly, to the point where, you know, like, I was trying to, like, kick, you know, like, just whatever, but my stomach was actually turning, even though this person needed to...
Oh, he needed it, but he's getting mushed.
But, yeah, meanwhile, I turn around, I see Ben, like, jumping through the air onto that big fat skinhead's head. Like, it's crazy. And then Bert had brass knuckles on, and then, no, Ben had brass knuckles on, because Ben always has a weapon somehow. But, you know, at this point, everything's a blur. I just remember things like Don stopping Baruch getting beat up.
Yeah, I remember
that. I tried to kick one of them out, and my audio skate sneaker goes flying through the door. At the same time, Ben is bending down to punch one of them while Bert is trying to mace them, and then Bert ends up macing Ben in the face.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Which is just the most, like, typical, like, the curse moment of all time. But all of this happens, and we then, you know, the show's done. Apparently, this guy, Chris from The Cause, maybe it was The Cause that played.
Maybe.
But Chris, this guy, Chris, I can't remember his last name, but he played in that band, The Cause, and he was walking back to his car behind this group of Nazis that had just been fucking destroyed. And the guy that Dave had been punching, that Freddy choked out, White Warrior, his ear was half hanging off. Like apparently, I mean, this is, you know, urban legend at this time. Like, you know, everyone says it was hanging off, but it was definitely cut, like, severely and mangled. And it, you know, the big fat guy who had, like, straight up, like, Tweety Bird style lumps on his head, like massive hematomas that looked like straight up like Acme had a mallet land on his head. he was like, we've got to call the brothers, we've got to get the rest of the Hammers down here, or something along those lines. And the big guy, probably on 2 strikes, probably, this is the only reason I can think of this, said, no, those Straight Edge kids are down for their shit, it's cool. Like, that's what this guy Chris had heard him say, like, but we didn't know that at the time. This information didn't get back to us till much later, so what we did, like, I think the next night, we had the War Council at Mandarin Dynasty, where it was like Bert, Don, Dave, a bunch of us, like, it was like, we all went to Mandarin to say, everybody has to commit to going to every show from here on out because there's going to be a comeback. Because Bert knew that world more because of his, being a sharp and fighting those guys for years. He's like, well, now they're going to come back and, it's going to be crazy. But for once, it was almost like the clouds parted and the sun came through. It was kind of like, that was the only way. And this story can be told in any scene across America. It's like, bullies only stop bullying when you make them stop bullying. Do you know what I mean? So at that point, it's this weird thing where I went home and wrote those lyrics, like, having a tape of Over My Dead Body, like, instrumental music. We had this one song, and I was like, all right, this song's called Neanderthal Convention, and it almost wrote itself, like, straight out of it just flowed perfectly. And then, I had him add 2 extra guitar lines because I wanted to say that much more on each verse.
Sure.
So at that point, and then then we had, that song was very important, but it was very important for me to do some actually, like, very, very blunt and straightforward straight edge songs. But the way that straight edge matters to me and matters to Rob and matters to Aaron and matters to everybody who was in the band was that straight edge is a choice for us, not a thing to divide. It's like, I am fucking proud to be straight edge. It's done a lot for me, and yeah, I love listening to a somewhat ignorant straight edge song that is very divisive because it empowers you, but that's not what we want to do it.